righty. So here we are, part two. We're going to go right into it. This is Setting the Record Straight. It is about the state of the local music and audio recording industry, from recording studios and licensing, educational models, training, partnering with audiovisual producers or content creators, as we call them now, streaming, crossing over, and more. We have a very distinguished panel here. We're just going to go down the line, then I'll let everyone go into more detail on themselves. To my immediate left, we have Carlos Perez de Anda, who is the studio manager and chief engineer of Alacran Studios. Welcome, Carlos. You guys can applaud after each one. You don't have to wait. I know you want to. And then to his immediate left, we have another new speaker this year to MMFM, Pierre Hachar. Did I say it right?
You're perfect.
Perfecto. Junior, who is a music lawyer, managing partner of the Hachar Law Group. So welcome, Pierre.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And to his immediate left, we have someone coming back for a second day, because she's also a very talented film producer as well, Giorgia Savio, who is the co-founder of Alacran Group and the founder of Jinga Pictures. Welcome, Giorgia.
Thank you. Thank you.
Last but definitely not least, one of our oldies but goodies, because he's a great, great friend and colleague and has participated in MMFM before, Marco Mall, who is a producer, creator, and founder of Florida Film House. Welcome, Marco. Just an early plug, he also has his Urban Film Festival coming up soon, so make sure you check him out in the socials and show up to his amazing event. So we're going to just jump right into it. Carlos, let's start with you. If you want to just grab the mic there. We're sharing mics. Yeah, you're just like Maria Lisa. Just like first thing is like making sure all the buttons work. I love it. Yep. So, Carlos, tell us a little bit about yourself personally, how you kind of got into the business and the work you do now over at Alacran.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm originally from Quito, Ecuador. I was born there, and I got into music very, very early, when I was 4 or so. And it was pretty decided that I wanted to get in the business early on. I did a lot of work there and won a scholarship to go study at the Berklee College of Music in Boston, back a while now. I attended for 5 years, did a dual major on music technology, more specifically music production and engineering and sound design. And after that, I moved to LA, where I worked for about 6 or 7 years. And in around 2016, 2017, I decided to move to Miami, which, for a lot of people, that was like, why would you do that? At the time, that was like, why would you do that? Especially because I was doing really well in LA. And I just had a feeling. I just had a feeling, and I had seen some movement in our industry. And one of these kind of little key things that started happening was like the Despacito kind of last drip that tipped over the glass, or however you want to say it. And so I ended up moving here, and it was initially temporary. I didn't want to commit myself to, something so new and so adventurous, but I ended up getting a lot of work here, and I met a lot of wonderful artists, a lot of wonderful creatives, and so I decided to just stay. And along a couple of years later, I met this wonderful lady right here to my left who wanted to put a new recording studio in the heart of South Beach, which
Don't ask me why.
it doesn't get more adventurous than that. And since I had already done something super brave, I said, okay, let's go, let's do it. And it's been a wonderful experience. It's been 5 years since we set that out, and that's kind of me. And other than that, being the manager of that studio, I am a producer, a songwriter, and I am an engineer, focusing on mixing, recording, and I do a lot of post-production too.
Oh, great setup. Thank you so much, Carlos. Pierre, you're up.
By the way, I've been to their studio, Alacran Studios, and it's an A-class facility. So, my name's Pierre Hachar. I was born in Venezuela, And I came to the United States when I was 2 years old. I've been here ever since. Miami is my home, and I love Miami. I come from a music background. Before I became a music lawyer, I was a musician. I never knew I was going to be a lawyer. I never wanted to be a lawyer. My mom was a pianist. I was born with a piano next to me. High school came. I was a drummer. I knew I wanted to be in the music space. I just didn't know where. Like Carlos, I went to Berklee College of Music. It was way too cold for me. I did not have a scholarship. So 1 year later, I got a full ride to the University of Miami, and I was like, I'm coming back home. So I came back to Miami, and then I studied music business. But you had to, at that time, it's changed. You had to play an instrument to get into the program. Luckily, I had polished my chops at Berklee, and it worked out. I was playing drums, and I was studying music business. Then, junior year, I meet somebody that worked at the Estefans, and I said, I don't know what I got to do, but I want to intern for you guys. And I got the internship for Emilia and Gloria, and I learned a lot there. I was there for about 10, 11 months. And for 5 years, I was a musician. I opened up a studio. I was producing records. I was mixing records. I was traveling as a drummer. I got one opportunity to go on tour overseas with an A-list artist, top of the line in there at that time. And I came back and I was like, this is not for me. I want to help the artists. I don't want to be part of the artists community. I want to help them be the biggest artist they can be. And I found my calling, and I preach this a lot online and in educational conferences. If you have a passion for music, it doesn't matter. As long as you're in the music business, you will find your way. I found my way, and it was music law. So I've been a lawyer. I went back to law school, did what I had left, and became a lawyer. And my first client was an artist, helped them out of a deal, put them into a brand new deal. And that was 14 years ago, and I've been practicing law ever since in the entertainment space. I've created a law firm with amazing professionals. We have 11 lawyers at my firm. We have 24 people total, and all we do is different aspects of law catered towards the entertainment community, and we represent some of the biggest Latin artists in the world. I've been fortunate enough to close multi-million-dollar deals for them, so I see the artists come from usually Central or South America. We help them with their visa process. We get them structured corporately. We help them understand where their IP has value, and we help them grow that, and then they make a lot of money doing it, hopefully if they do it the right way, through a lot of work, obviously, and a lot of legal help and advising. So for me, I do what I love every day as a music lawyer, and I see what I used to be in just grow, because it's very difficult to be, especially in Miami, and get a shot. But once you have a shot, most people lose it because they don't know and understand how to organize it and grow it the right way and build the right teams. That's what I do day in, day out since I've been a lawyer for 14 years.
Thank you, Pierre. Great. Giorgia.
Hi, everyone. Well, you know from me from yesterday. So I set up Alacran Studios and group actually with my sister. My background is actually movies and music, obviously, a big part of it. And we wanted really kind of do something together. My sister was more looking after a Spanish artist and wanted to do something with Latin America. So I had moved here for films. The studio ideas came really to create an hub, which was slightly different. Our studio has also multimedia facilities. We have a live stream. We have a room that really we have client, not just artists coming to record their music, but we'll also have podcast and performances, listening sessions in actually another part of the studio. And the idea was also to create a space which is kind of unusual in recording studios, where different artists or different people could somehow, meet and do things at the same time. Recording on one side, having another session that is, as I said, a different client, and the film side, which was basically trying to put music composers and what you do for films and everything that is on post sound, and also with artists, because not necessarily everyone can just has a Walt Disney studio behind and pick up the phone and call I don't know, Taylor Swift to ask for making a song, So the idea was to create something slightly different. And in South Beach, we are top a recording studio. Certainly, it's not an easy, like before we were saying, the panel facility to maintain. And our client, yes, it's from not just Latin music, all great artists, smaller artists, bigger artists. Obviously, it is a Ferrari, so not the cheapest in the market. But it was really to create something slightly different in South Beach, because obviously it is very important as well where your studio is, your facilities, and we just felt that a lot of people had left the beach, although the main labels are still like Universal and Warner Music Latin. We're in the same building, Warner Music Latin. So that's by the idea behind really the recording studio and putting together my knowledge in films and being a film producer with also the music and artists and recording studio and composers. And in fact, what we were talking yesterday, Rebellion is one of the projects that we did. We'd recorded in our studio. We had talking about salsa. We had 15 musicians at the same time because our facilities allow that with the music producer, with the director. I mean, it's been an incredible project. Carlos and the other producer were mixing. I mean, it was we creating a song, we creating a full soundtrack. So the project kind of allowed us to do that, and it was an interesting um, project that I kind of envisaged and finally put it through into production that could happen.
Great, thank you, Giorgia.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. How you doing?
Mr. Mall.
Yes. So I am from Miami, right? I went to school at Florida A&M in Tallahassee, School of Business. And while in Tallahassee, I was doing, I managed a radio station, and I threw a lot of parties, ended up buying a club, buying a restaurant. And then I had a crew of about 50 people with me called the Tallahassee Hot Boys. One of those people, there's about 12 DJs that were, who worked at my radio station, so on and so forth. One of those DJs was T-Pain. So I helped T-Pain get into the music industry. We started a record label called Nappy Boy. We toured the world for like 4 years. At this time, he had like in like a 4-year span, he had like maybe 30 number one records. So it was a good run. During this time, I had a chance to work with a lot of the hip hop artists, from the Chris Browns to the Lil Waynes to just name them. Everybody he was making music with, we were working with. Right. I got into tour management. I managed quite a bit of big tours for my music tour with Lil Wayne and a bunch of other artists. We came back to Miami to do studio. We were living in Atlanta at the time, so we moved from Tallahassee. I bought an apartment building in Atlanta, moved like 15 of my guys up there, created the label. But then we came back to Miami. I had been gone from Miami for so long because I went there, Tallahassee, to go to college. And when I came back to Miami, now as a man, a grown up, I was just like, why am I not living here? This is paradise, like I'm a water guy. So I was like, you know what? I am out, and, I was still working with the label, but it was just like, I was so in love with Miami and I wanted to be in the Miami code, like just dive right back in. And I always had a passion for film because I also had a TV show as well when I was in Tallahassee, and it did really well. So I always had a passion for film, and I had a passion for developing content that I thought could make a difference. And in music, I've realized that it was harder to do that because of the labels and just different bureaucracy that was in place that controlled what records went mainstream, right? So in film, you have a lot more hands-on control of what you're developing and how it's going out and the message that you're making. I dove straight into film. I had a business partner that I had shot a lot of our music videos with. And me and him kind of have co-produced and directed a bunch of music videos. His name is Blah G. He was big in the Latin side, shooting a lot of huge music videos with the reggaeton artists. And I learned quickly that, a lot of my Latin counterparts, they were able to shoot high quality videos at a lower cost than we were doing on the hip hop market. So therefore, I brought that into the hip hop community, and we were able to like just have a great run to establish our company, which is Florida Film House, that we started 15 years ago. Right, so we've been in Wynwood now for like 15 years. We have like a 5,000 square foot studio. It's about 20 to 25 of us there, and we now shoot, some commercials, some corporate content, but mostly films and TV shows, and develop a lot of the content we want to develop. We've gotten into distribution a little bit now because we had to, because we got our first film kind of got jerked from us a little bit, so we had to learn a lot about distribution. So now I've been touring the markets for the last 10 years, learning about distribution, and have a lot of great distribution partners. We also created a youth program called First Take Youth Film Program, where we teach kids about film. We've been doing that for 9 years now, especially in like the inner city where kids have sometimes limited resources and limited options. We probably put about 100 kids into the industry as of to date. And then we also created the Urban Film Festival about 9 years ago. It's our 9th Urban Film Festival coming up. And it's now one of the largest free film festivals now in America, right? So it's a completely free film festival. We do it once again just to create opportunities for different filmmakers. So now I am working with a lot of artists, because now what artists are doing is they want to get into developing content, right? So now you have so many musical artists that have come to me with this great idea. Mark, I want you to be head of my studio, right? And it's like about a dozen of them, right? And I'm like, well, let's work together, right? Like, I don't want to just all of a sudden be part of Flow Rider. Flow Rider wanted to make Florida Film House. Flow Rider Film House, right?
I bet he did.
Genius, right? So there's a lot of phenomenal opportunities coming in the future, but that's where I'm at my space right now.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. All right, so now we've set the table. So now I kind of want to start to go big picture, and in terms of what is the state of our local industry right now? What are some of the opportunities, but also some of the challenges, right? Because I think a good summit and a conference is not just talking about all the great stuff, and obviously you guys have amazing track. This is a really good panel, by the way. One more round of applause. These guys are awesome. What are the challenges? We see it coming from the contraction of the industries, technology. We talked about AI on the previous panel. So I'll start with you, Carlos. Tell us a little bit about the current state of the local industry from your perspective.
All right. Well, that's a layered question and a layered answer. So I'd say it's looking pretty bright for us in Miami for a few years now. We've seen, especially since I've been here. Remember, I've been to Miami all my life, but I've been a Miami resident or a Florida resident for, I don't know, close to 10 years, a little less, 7. But especially the last 5 years have been key in our music industry. And I know Pierre can talk about this a lot more, and so do you guys. But in my eyes, I've seen the growth of now Miami is kind of like the mecca and the connection between not only markets, but also, artists that want to work together. Anglo artists, English artists, hip hop artists, pop artists that want to get into the Latin realm, and with the boom of the Latin realm, now Latin music is heard around the world, way more than it was before. Because Latin people, we've all had that duality, right? We all grew up listening to music in English. That was like, it's a thing. But English-speaking people didn't really listen to Spanish music the way they do now, even if they don't speak the language. So that's certainly very, very, very clear in our industry, and it's created certainly a lot of work. And I feel like there's certain things that, maybe at a government level, at a city level, that we need to do to start catching up and really helping artists, hubs, and businesses to really thrive in this new market.
Yeah.
I would say that's number one.
Yeah.
And then as far as AI goes, these are still just tools, wonderful tools, but they're tools.
Yeah.
So
You're right. You're still the chef.
yeah.
I love it. Pierre, our helper now, because, and I want you to also touch in some of the challenges. We also talked about licensing and how Spotify and some of these platforms are creating less monetary revenue for the artists.
Yeah.
How can we tackle that and protect their IP and the monetization of all of this?
Yeah, it's an interesting subject, and I know the previous panel touched on it. Look, music, especially in the Latin space, it's always a little behind. So they come to Miami because of the expertise. This is why Miami's always going to be thriving, right? So what I've seen in the last 5 years is that you have artists from Colombia, from Argentina, from Brazil, from Chile, Mexico, and they're doing very well, but there's nobody in that space that understands how to take it to the next level. And then they come to Miami, and we have experts that help them take it to the next level. But we're limited also in Miami. We need more professionals in Miami. We need more education. We need more educated managers and business managers and accountants that understand royalty streams and all that. We need that here. There's so much demand for it. If there's anybody trying to get into those fields, you'll be doing very well for a long time. Now, in regards to the royalty streams and how they get paid, so just really quick, Spotify, they take about a 30% from the pool, and 70% goes to the rights holders, which whoever owns the recording, and then small parts to the songwriters, which is 2 different rights, right? And the way it's broken up, it's fractions of a penny per stream, right? So if you're doing very well, the money comes in Brinks trucks. I mean, you're just making all the money. But if you're not doing well, you're making no money. And you're putting the same amount of effort into that music. So I think bridging that gap is our challenge as a music industry. There are artists that make more than $1 million a year that nobody's heard of. Those are the people that are just consistent because it's a saturated market. So the challenge is all of the music coming out and all of the content coming out. And how do you stand out so that you can get those streams so you can make that $1 million+ a year? And it's good music and consistency and education, so you understand where to register your music, so you can get those royalties. But the gap is massive. So you're either doing very well or you're doing very poorly. And so technology is way ahead of legislation to be able to catch up on those, increasing those royalties, specifically for the songwriters. Because I always tell people, without a song, you don't have a music business. You just don't. And so Miami has amazing songwriters, some of the best. I'm talking Latin. And so the constant fight we see is that these songwriters aren't making enough money, but they've got songs that are doing well, but they do well for 5-6 weeks, and then they drop because there's another record that everyone's using for content and for TikTok and for campaigns and whatnot. So the real opportunity is the consistency, understanding the business, and then partnering, because I always tell people, okay, music is your excuse to get into the business. What you do outside of that is the icing on the cake. How do you partner with brands? How do you get your music in a campaign? How do you hold that telephone and get paid to hold up that telephone? How do you get into the corporate realm? How do you create product after you've built a name as an artist or songwriter or producers? Producers are artists nowadays, and they get paid very well if they know how to manage their business. So once you're in, you got to expand to different businesses to be able to be sustainable as an artist. And people like Flowrider have been able to do it very well. And they create products, or they endorse products. And that's really where the opportunity is. But the challenge in Miami is that a lot of the creative community doesn't understand the different steps you need to take to get to the flow riders that are making tens of millions of dollars, because they've understood music is the gateway to other opportunities. Licensing, my office does a lot of licensing with a lot of artists. They make great money. It's found money for the artist.
Right.
A brand comes in and says, I'll pay you $3.5 million for a year, and all you have to do is show up at 2 photo shoots, and we can use your name and likeness for 12 months with a 60-day holdback and all these other terms. And it's like, all right, how many streams right? I think Maria was talking about how many streams do you have to make $3.5 million? Well, it's quite a bit, and you got to be lucky. And once you have that hit, you got to worry about that second hit.
Yeah.
And organizing all that. So, but to do full circle here, technology always goes faster than legislation could catch up on, and so we need a lot of that push to increase what the creatives get paid, because that's a driving force behind getting to the consumers, and that's how the brands win, the artists win, everybody on this panel and this conference win if we can keep pushing that gap, so that we can everybody moves forward. But Miami right now, in my opinion, from what I see, is on its way to continue to grow in the land space. It's just exponential at this point.
Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah.
That was very well said. We have a comment. Yeah, Patty, go ahead.
Yep. Yep. hmm Absolutely. 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 Yeah, no, and that's great. That's great. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I was just going to, that's a great point, Patty. It's having an entrepreneurial thinking outside the box, and obviously having a great lawyer doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt.
So I always say that's the secret sauce of LA, right? Is they're great with lawyers and accountants, and that's how they manage a multi-billion-dollar industry all over the world.
There are not many entertainment lawyers in Miami. There are not many music accountants in Miami.
Right.
And the few that are great. They understand it well. Everybody else, they make a lot of mistakes, and it's really detrimental to our business.
Yeah, no,
Very
great,
detrimental
great
to our
point.
business.
Yeah, we need more lawyers out there. In case you're still studying, you might be hiring. You never know.
I'm always hiring. There's a lack of good entertainment lawyers. We try to train them because there's very few to pick from. If we go out into the market, there's very few available with the expertise we need to be able to serve our clients. So it's definitely a good field.
Awesome. So now I want to transition, because we call it the Music and Media Summit, in a little bit of a crossover situation with our last two panelists. Giorgia, I want you to take the mic and talk a little bit, and specifically, and by the way, if you guys haven't seen Rebelión on Netflix, it's amazing. It's about Joey Arroyo, who's famous, obviously, Latin salsa singer from Colombia. But Giorgia, talk a little bit about sort of how you can see the local industry also benefiting from this idea of crossing over, right, between the strong music scene that we have, but also film and media playing into that. And also how you're able, like you said, to re-record all the music for this film in South Beach, even though you shot most of the film in Colombia, right?
Yeah. The film was all shot in Colombia, except New York. So, I mean, the great things, Miami, like we're saying, there is a great talent in Miami, like from, all kind of musicians, not just on Latin music, but yes, predominantly Latin. So the idea was, with Rebellion anyway, we were, okay, we look at different way. Obviously, owning a recording studio made, all the numbers as well to like, okay, what can we do? Who is in, how are we going to bring the cast? Because, well, the actor was supposed to come at one point as well with the singer, because everything, the actor only a few times actually voice, everything is someone else singing, and then create all the music. But when the director was looking at and the producer that we use, Julio Bagues, great music producer and the vice president of Pierre's Music, Latin, and we really thought, this is great. We can actually create everything with an enormous amount of artists and talent in Miami. So when we looked at what we could do, we just Julio and myself and Carlos and the team of the director and producers in Colombia. We looked at how we could do this, and as well, if we wanted to do a soundtrack, which artist we could, propose and do a single based in Miami. And in fact, I mean, at that time, we used Goyo and the time they were between, Miami and Colombia. But everything kind of worked out in the right way, having as well the talent, the people in Miami, the studio. So, I mean, sorry, I don't know if on what side you want me to more like, but in terms of finding the actual talent in Miami to be able to connect with, in this case, talent that we had in Colombia, and cost wise as well, worked out very well
Right.
for the film. Be able to do it all in Miami. And
Yeah.
we did things on set, which is different anyway. The director had chosen actors, also musicians, one of which had played with Joe Arroyo in the film. But the whole sound was recreating, which is a lot of times in films with music, everything gets recreated in a studio, like with Freddie Mercury, like with Elton John, films that are not just the story or the music composing side of it, but actually.
Yeah.
So that for us worked, and then with Colombia anyway, there is as I said, incentive. So you can adjust in a way. We had great lawyers. I mean, I am like I'm not a lawyer myself, but I worked with a lot of lawyers, and to me, this business, films and music and entertainment. Anyway, you need your line producer. You need your good lawyers of entertainment to understand and to help you, really guiding you, and with your music the same, to understand how the deal can be done, what can be the best for everyone. Alacran had a small recording label as well at one point, and that's how in our case we were like, okay, we're investing as well, because obviously the time and our engineers and in the studio and the time in the studio, but we also are going to get a soundtrack, which nowadays soundtrack, let's be honest, they don't make money, in general, that's
Right.
ready. But you own, as a label, you own your masters. So you do it in a way that, again, and then we did a single with a great artist. So you have to be very creative. You have to be open, and you have to have the right team together. And I find that, Miami has, but like before we were saying, needs more and needs to
Yeah.
be really open and also experiencing. Like, I just think that it's very important for people to go and get experience
Yeah.
while they're studying, while you're working in another, because that's the reality. And whichever level you start, from yesterday as well on the writing panel, it was saying, just get in, because it's the only way of learning. But I find that in Miami, I don't know, sometimes we had a great people also coming and do internship, but it's a big also investment for a company to do that. So again, like, but go out there and go in and try to learning in the whichever way. But I think because it's connection and there is need of that.
Yeah.
So with Rebellion, again, obviously, wasn't the first time, but it was my first time also doing that kind of movie
Yeah.
with the music and with our studio. We just opened, and so it was actually a new process. But Miami showed that we could do it, and
We
that's
did.
I think it's the great that there is talent, there is writer, there is great musicians. And this is how actually before, when I was saying that we came, me and my sister, I didn't say, but I was in London before. I, studied and worked in London before I landed in Miami. And my sister was in Spain. And the idea was actually Miami because she wanted to bring this, at the time, this Spanish artist who was flamenco jazz with the Latin flavor and creating something different. And this was like, 2013, and we did a show here in Miami to see how so again, like, show that Miami, and I had just landed in Miami for selling actually films to Latin American markets, for US Hispanic market and the world. So, and I had no idea, and I loved Latin America because my first film ended up being in Brazil, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But you know.
No, I think you framed it perfectly. Thank you, Georgia. And one thing that we've been advocating for locally is more incentive support, not from the film side, not just for production days, but for post-production,
Yeah.
for music, for audio. Because even like you said, if most of the film shoots in Colombia, but you can do the soundtrack recording, the sound mixing in Miami, that's hiring, that's jobs, that's heads in beds.
Yes.
So Marco, I want you to just kind of pick that up and run with it.
I mean, so like in regards to like the local and what's going on to me, I think that like, you know, Miami is its own world in a way, right? Like, you know, you have all these beautiful cultures all together in this melting pot, and we all grew, well, not all of us grew up, but we're all here together now, and we're learning from each other. And I think that that what gives Miami a special sound as well. So I think even when the other artists come from different parts of the world, you know, they come here and they just gives them, like, I like that you have your spot on the beach, because that's a feel, right? It's a feeling, right? You know, so you know, you put that feeling into your music. And then now, like I was saying, even like on the content side, like you know, you have to be creative. You were saying, Pierre, you know, like for instance, one of your brands could easily work with one of your artists to make a movie with one of the local right,
Happens all the time.
right, and then still do all the soundtracks and the music videos and everything cost effectively. Because to me, what's going on is that the industry is getting, there's a lot of ways. Streaming is definitely bringing in a new monetary, bringing in money, right? But then we're losing money on some other sectors, right? So we have to be creative in how we go into like everything. We have to be all, you know, thinking outside the box of how we're going to monetize and make money in this field now. So it's very important that we are coming up with creative ways. Like I was saying, a lot of the musical artists want to create film companies now. Everybody wants to be an actor now, right? And they actually want to be like the stars of the movie, right? So you're like, okay, well, you know, maybe you should, you know, take some acting classes, you know, and like kind of like if you're gonna go into it, be serious about the craft, right? Like you are about your music craft, you gotta be serious about an acting craft. You gotta take it just as serious, right? So, you know, I say that in regards to like what's happened, what I see happening locally right now. Can you say the question again? Because I actually
I think you answered it. But yeah, the first kind of like the state of the local industry, right? And then the crossover and how, you know, music artists can benefit from tapping into the film industry and vice versa, right? Because we have these communities here. Oftentimes they live separately in little silos.
Right.
So where's the connectivity, the crossover, so that we can monetize and have a successful industry, public and private? And just if you can touch a little bit about education, because we started to touch on that, and Patty's point is correct. I think Career Source and our local government partners are amazing and are willing to put resources in, and how important it is to train the next generation.
Yeah, the education is everything. I mean, like I work with so many young filmmakers, and you know, they're hungry. They want to learn. They don't have the resources maybe to go to some of the bigger markets, like, you know, like say the Berlinales of the world and the Cannes and just different things they could probably, and they maybe didn't go to big schools to get training, but they're hungry, and they, you know, they're kind of like, I'm not gonna say they're stuck here, but we have to bring it to them.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I like, you know, panels like in festivals like this, and like my festival, like it's a free festival. Like I bring in as many cool professionals that I know are really about the industry, and they're the kind of people that will give you their phone numbers after the panel, and they will, you know, stay in contact with you and mentor you and help you grow in the industry. Those are the only type of people I bring to Miami, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that we need more of that. And I think, you know, Miami has a lot of festivals, a lot of music support. There is a lot, but I think that, you know, like you're saying, where government needs to get behind, you know, luckily for me, I had the city supporting my film festival for many years. And I don't have it anymore because of some things that have changed with, you know, some of the funding in Florida and stuff. But, you know, now I'm going to private sector, right? But at the end of the day, it's just very important that we do, you know, educate the next generation, educate ourselves, keep sharing, keep working together, you know, keep thinking out the box. Like I'm definitely gonna be hitting Pierre up about different opportunities, you know, because I just know there's so many, and we just have to communicate to figure them out, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times we get so busy in our own little world, and we're so busy doing what we're doing, thinking it's so important, where sometimes you can just have a couple of conversations and just expand your world so much more, and you realize what you're not doing. You know?
Yeah.
And that's why I love going to Berlin, because I have 100 conversations with people from different parts of the world. And at the cigar lounge, I'm sitting there chilling. I'm overhearing conversations. I'm like, damn, that's wow, you know? And then I come back with that information. I try to share with as many people as possible. But it's important that we do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Well said. Yeah, I think that's a great way to end the panel because, but I want, you want to jump in? 2 minutes. Yeah, do it.
There's a really good point that I want to mention in education is coming from a 4-year college, and one of the best at that. Wonderful tools, you learn incredible things, you meet incredible people, but you don't know how to run your business. You don't learn how the industry works in a updated way. And I feel like now something I'm noticing, because I don't even know how many emails of people moving into the city, students particularly, either about to graduate or graduating from schools all over the country, all over the world actually, moving to Miami. And they're just trying to find their footing, you know? And you know, like you were saying, they don't know necessarily what to do in that environment. So I feel like something we could do to help, and I try to do this all the time. Obviously, we take interns all the time, and more so for us, it's what we can give to them, because at the end of the day, when I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that, I would have wanted to have that, even though LA, which was my first foot out of college, was a little more organized in that sense. I feel like we have to really discover all the talent that's moving into the city and how we can help nurture it so that it doesn't die down.
Great.
Yeah, very well said.
A lot of people leave the industry because they feel stuck.
Yeah.
A lot of great talent leaves the industry because they feel stuck. I know many of them. Some of them are not willing to put in the work. I mean, I worked for free for years, right? I wanted to get in the door. What do I have to do? Well, whose coffee do I have to get? That's the mentality you need to get, right? But the people that don't have that mentality, they don't make it. But the ones that do, they feel stuck. They get frustrated. They don't have a family member or a friend that can help them. And we lose that talent. They go into a different sector. They move out of Miami.
Yeah.
They go to Nashville.
Very well said. Yeah. Yeah.
Other cities.
Yeah. No, that's what it is. And we don't want to lose the talent, but we have some great talent up here that's been able to share their wisdom and their knowledge with us. So thank you guys again. This was a really, really important panel. Thank you. All right, so that'll do it. Thank you again to part one of our Setting the Record Straight. You guys were amazing. And the continuation of this discussion in part two. Marquez.